But I got thinking about it's time to make up your mind. Time to make up your mind. In other words, we have a choice to make. And I want to back up to Deuteronomy chapter 30. And Chris, will you read Deuteronomy chapter 30, 15 through 20? It's 5 verses, but kind of a lengthy reading, but there's a lot of things we need to look at in this chapter. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 15 through 20.
See, I have set before thee this day life and good, and death and evil, and that I command thee this day to love the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that thou mayest live and multiply. And the Lord thy God shall bless thee in the land whither thou goest to possess it. But if thine heart turn away, so that thou wilt not hear, but shalt be drawn away, and worship other gods and serve them, I denounce unto you this day that ye shall surely perish, and that ye shall not prolong your days upon the land whither thou passest over Jordan to go to possess it. I called heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live, that thou mayest love the Lord thy God, and that thou mayest obey his voice, and that thou mayest cleave unto him, for he is thy life, and the length of thy days, that thou mayest dwell in the land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give thee.
In verse 20 it tells us to love God, and then it tells us to obey God, and it tells us to cleave unto God. And it's time that we make up our mind. America has gone south, so to speak. I hate to use that, but south. America has gone backwards, in other words, in many ways. And we've turned aside, just like it's told in this passage here, that we're not cleaving to God, we're not obeying God, and we're not loving God as we should. So it's time for us to make up our mind. We have to make a choice here. And this choice here, I want to look at it in a way that show you how man is deprived, man is a sinner, man is no good, and then I want to show how that we have a choice. It's time to make up our mind or make a decision or choice to serve God, and God doesn't change. Whatever God says is steadfast and sure. We have a God that is unchanging. He's immutable. He changes not, it says in the Bible. So I want us to look at the Deuteronomy chapter 30. We'll come back to this, and it's give us the option here to choose God or not to choose God, to serve God. And this is whenever the dedication of the temple by Solomon, when all this took place, he told these people, right to start with, see, I set before you this day life and death, blessings and curses. So we need to make a choice here. But I want to look, we see that man is deprived, but God is sovereign. And we put God first and think about some sayings and teachings about God and the choice that God has made. Excuse me. In John chapter 15, verse 16, Jesus made this statement. He says, ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen who? You. The apostles. He was talking to the apostles, disciples there. He says, ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen you and ordained you. So there's a choice that God or Jesus has made, which is in the flesh. God and Jesus are the same. And Jesus was in the flesh when he made this statement about being ordained there to bring forth fruit. And he told them they hadn't chosen themselves, but I have chosen you. Turn to Ephesians chapter 1. Well, David, or James, how about reading Ephesians 1, 3 and 4, verses 3 and 4, chapter 1.
Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who hath blessed us with all spiritual blessings in heavenly places in Christ, according as he hath chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love.
There's three questions coming with this: when, why, and how. Verses 3 and 4 pretty well cover, well, 3, 4, and 5, but we read 3 and 4, and this, when did this happen? Before the foundation of the world. Now, God had chosen us in him before the world began. In other words, before anything else, before man was even made from the dust of the earth. My understanding, before the foundation of the world, God had the people out of every nation, kindred, and time. And all of that, there are many. I know the Bible teaches there are few that go in to the gate. That's a choice too we get to, but we're like the sand on the seashore. In other words, eternally speaking, God has a people of every nation, kindred, tongue, and tribe. And when was it that he did this? Is before the world began. Timothy also teaches before the world began. But Ephesians 3 and 4, that question is when, or before the foundation. Now why did Jesus do this? Why did God do this? Why did he choose these people?
His amazing grace and love.
All right, we mentioned about sovereignty and mercy. It's amazing grace. Ephesians 2:8 tells us, by grace are you what? Saved. Not of yourself. It's a gift of God. Not according to what we do. Not of works, it says. Not of works, lest any man should boast. For by grace, this is how he did it, why he did it, because he has a great love for us, and he chose these people out for himself. This is the choices or decisions of God and God alone. We have nothing to do with the choosing before the world. None whatsoever. But we got a merciful and loving God, and we need to cleave to him, obey him, and love him, for what Deuteronomy says. So we have a choice to make. It's time to make up your mind. You follow what it says? We have gone so far away. Churches have gone far away from God. They're teaching everything and anything out there. So it's time for us to make up our mind and serve the one true and living God, not the gods of this world. So how he did it? By his power and power. So when did he do it? Before the world began. Why did he do it? Because of great love of God, and how he did it, and why he done it is because he loved us first. This is the choice of God and God alone. Now, here's another kind of lengthy reading, but it needs to be brought out. God will never lose none of his people. God will never lose those people that he has chosen before the foundation of the world, and those that he loved. In John chapter 4, verse 17, it says, we love him because he first, what? Loved us. And that was the choice of God. And like I said, he's immutable. He doesn't change. Once he loved us, he's always loved us. Once he created us, he's always loved us. So in John 6:39, it tells you that he loses none. Sister Christy, if you want to read St. John 6:39 through 44.
39 through 44.
Yeah.
And this is the Father's will which hath sent me, that of all which he hath given me I shall lose nothing.
Well, let's stop right there, intervene on that a little bit. He says, all that the Father has given me, I'll lose what? Nothing. He doesn't lose any of his, or given to me.
But should raise it up again on the last day. And this is the will of him that sent me, that every one which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. Then the Jews murmured at him, because he said, I am the bread which came down from heaven. And they said, Is not this Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How is it then that he said, I came down from heaven? Jesus therefore answered and said unto them, Murmur not among yourselves. No man can come to me, except the Father which hath sent him draw him. And I will raise him up at the last day.
All right. Here he's saying, I will lose none. These are mine, I'll draw them, and these are my people, and I'll raise them up. Does God raise it? Did God raise us up? Yes, he has. Now, you can apply this also that he raises us up now in the kingdom. That if you obey him and love him and keep the commandments, you know, we can't serve two masters. We try to serve two masters sometimes. And it's time to make up your mind and choose whom you're going to really serve. That's what Joshua 24:15 says. Joshua says, choose ye this day whom you going to what? Serve. As for me and my house, I've made up my mind. It's time. And I've made up my mind. Just paraphrasing. He says, choose ye this day whom you serve. For me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. So you got to make up your mind. And you're going to really serve the Lord. Jeremiah 6:16 tells us about a path that we go down. And we're to serve God with all our heart, soul, and our mind. This is the choice of God. Jesus was sent into this world. In Matthew 1:21, it says, you know the scripture well. She shall bring forth a son. They're going to call his name Jesus, for he might save his people, or he shall save his people. A lot of people say that we might get to heaven and we might not. That is no truth to that. That's a pure lie from Satan himself. All that God chose and all those he has died for, by being Jesus himself come to die for his people, and he carried out that plan to the T. Jesus saved us. He ain't going to try. He did. And we need to thank God and serve God with all our heart, soul, and mind. So, let's turn to Romans chapter 8. One good thing about what I read in Romans chapter 8, it teaches about the love that Paul said it like this. He says, I am persuaded, or I am convinced. In 8:38, I am persuaded that death or life, no angel, no principality, no powers, nor things present, nor things to come shall separate us from what? The love of God. Nothing. So you're pretty secure, aren't you, there? As far as eternity, we are secure in God. We don't choose God to go to heaven if I'm good or bad, eternal heaven, but you do choose God or make a decision and know it's time to make up your mind that we fix to get into now and shortly. He tells us over in now let's back up to 30:15 of Deuteronomy. You ain't got to back up. I'll just tell you what it says. He says you can choose life or death. Now you do have a choice. Now we've looked at God's choices. God's made choices, and they're going to be steadfast and sure. And he has chosen us, and we don't go to eternal heaven because of our choice whatsoever. Notice what I just said. You don't go to eternal heaven. That's when you leave this present world. Those that God has elected, those he has chosen, and those that are his, will go to eternal heaven by the grace and grace alone. Not our choice. Now, we're going to get into a choice, a decision, and we need to make up our mind where we're going to follow God's word and do it. And in Deuteronomy chapter 30, he told us that we're to choose life or death. Blessings or cursing. What are you going to do? Are you going to choose life or death? And blessings and cursing? Jesus is that way that we need to be going. He says in John 4:14, 14:6, I believe it is. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Now, if you go and follow the ways of Jesus, you've made a choice or decision. If you make that decision, you'll know that Jesus is the only way now that we have to enter heaven on earth. Heaven on earth. Now, I mentioned a while ago about we make two choices here in Matthew 7:13 and 14. You don't have to turn to it. There's two ways. There's a straight way, and then there's a broad way, or narrow way. You can straight and narrow, or broad. And how many people go through the broad way? Many go in there, don't they? It teaches that they've chosen the easy way. We choose the easy way many times, don't we? But we're not going to enter the kingdom of heaven, peace and joy and righteousness, heaven on earth. Now, if we walk that broad way, now it's hard to enter the other one, isn't it? The straight and narrow, the narrow way. People don't like to suffer, do they? Few there be found. Okay. So, if you walk in that straight and narrow, it's hard. There's a lot of effort you got to make, and you have to make up your mind. It's time to make up your mind where you're going to walk the broad way, the easy way, and miss the life now that we have, the crown of life, the victorious life, the everlasting life. All these are describing the kingdom of heaven now, or the heaven now, to my understanding. Now, you got any questions, ask me about this, because this is very important to know. It's time to make up your mind. You walk that straight and narrow. In Acts chapter 14, it teaches that there's much tribulation to enter that straight and narrow way. Yeah. Much trouble. You got to suffer persecution. Peter said you can suffer for well-doing, or you can suffer for evil-doing. Either way you're going to suffer. I'd rather suffer for Christ's sake, wouldn't you?
Amen.
We need to suffer for righteousness. Suffer for Christ's sake. Choose you this day. Make up your mind which way you're going to go. Solomon, back up to 1 Kings chapter 3. Now, was Solomon the same man that wrote, choose you this day whom you're going to serve? As me and my house, that's Joshua. As me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. The same Solomon made a choice in Deuteronomy 30. He says, choose life or death, blessing or cursing. He had to make up his mind. We have to make up our mind. In Kings chapter 1 Kings chapter 3. Brother David, you want to read? Sure. Start with verse 2 and just go from 2 or 3. Just start with 3. 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 3.
Solomon loved the Lord and walked in the statutes of David his father. Only he sacrificed and burnt incense in high places. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there. But there was the great high place. 1,000 burnt offerings did Solomon offer upon the altar. In Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, ask what I shall give thee. And Solomon said, thou hast showed unto thy servant David my father great mercy, according as he walked before thee in truth and in righteousness and in uprightness of heart with thee, and thou hast kept for him this great kindness, that thou hast given him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. And now, O Lord my God, thou hast made thy servant king instead of David his father, and I am but a little child. I know not how to go out or come in. And thy servant is in the midst of thy people, which thou hast chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered nor counted for multitude. Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this thy so great a people?
Stop right there. Kings chapter 3, and verse 3, Solomon loved who? Who? He loved the Lord, didn't he? Was he walking that straight and narrow way at this point? Yes, he was. He loved God with all his heart. And he asked God for an understanding heart that he could judge the people, God's people, Israel. He made that statement that he wanted to. He didn't ask for a long life, did he? He didn't ask for riches and all these things. And God, it was in a dream at night, and the Lord told him that he'd be wise. And he was wise. He's one of the wisest men that has ever been on the face of this earth at that time. He loved God with all his heart. But now he showed, let me go ahead and mention about the baby before I forget about this. Solomon had wisdom, and two women would want the same baby. And you read about this in Kings. And one was arguing, this is my child. The other said, no, this is my child. And Solomon, right after that dream, and God had given him wisdom, he got a sword and said, all right, I'll cut the baby in half. And I'll give you half, and I'll give you half. What you think the real mama said? Don't kill the baby. That shows wisdom that God had blessed Solomon with, and Solomon gave the baby to the mother. He loved God, and he chose to walk with God and do things for God. But that same one to show you how you and I, it's time for us to make up our mind, is choose the right way. Solomon, the same man Solomon that was so wise and all that, had all this understanding, go to the 11th chapter of Kings. Verse 1 says, verse 1, 11, chapter verse 1, it's talking about Solomon. But King Solomon loved many strange women. Did he make a bad decision there? Did he make a bad choice? It's time for him to make up his mind if he's going to serve God or mammons of this world. King Solomon loved many strange women. Back going down to verse 4, it says, it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart. Now, the 3rd chapter, he loved God with his heart, all his heart. Now, he loved other gods, didn't he? So, he needs to make up his mind who's going to serve, God or mammon, or women, and gods of this world. In Chronicles chapter 7, well, I won't go to Chronicles 7. I want to close out with this thought here. There's a lot, many more you can go through about this time to make up your mind. But in Matthew 25, there was 10 virgins. 5 of them was wise, and 5 of them were foolish. Those that were wise, the door was shut on those that didn't have enough oil. They went to buy some while they was there. The door was shut. Now, were they eternally shut out? No. They just made a bad choice here, didn't they? They made a choice by not being ready to serve God. And it's time for us to make up our mind whether we're going to serve God or not to serve God. 5 were wise, and they went in, and the Lord blessed them tremendously. And you and I, if we just do what James says, be a doer, not a hearer only. So we got a choice to make. You going to be a doer or a non-doer? Many times I walk that broad way, which leads to destruction, and I'm like that 5 virgins that were foolish, but I need to be wise. Anybody got anything?
The question in my mind is, who can make these choices? And I think of the scripture over in 1 Corinthians 2 and 14. The natural man.
Steve, it's not.
The natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him, neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned.
He can't, because he's none of God, is it?
Until you're born of the Spirit of God.
Exactly.
You,
And certainly not.
these are choices that the children of God must make.
Well, like you said, the natural man can't receive the things of the Spirit of God until they're born of the Spirit of God. That's a good thought. You can't. Well, who is going to be born of the Spirit of God? Those that he has chosen before the foundation of the world. We all on the same page.